Good morning.
Welcome B.L. Welcome to Stevens Elementary School here in Burlington, Kentucky. Where are you?
I'm in New York City.
And I think you've connected us with somebody halfway around the world. I wonder if she's still in bed.
No, I'm ahead of you, actually. It's my afternoon.
I think I need a geography lesson. Well, Lynette, I'm so glad you could join us from Spain. So glad you could join us from Spain today. We've been very, very interested in what you have to share with us today. This whole idea of 3D printing. You know what? I was introduced to 3D printing by watching Grey's Anatomy. You know, in Grey's Anatomy, they build these organs for people, which I'm curious to find out if that actually happens. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your side of the world with your invention, what it is, and where it came from.
Do you mind if I do a little bit of background on Lynette and just explain a little bit about her? Lynette is a serial entrepreneur, and she's the chief marketing officer and co-founder of the company Natural Machines, and they make Foodini. And the students are going to interview her about the journey that brought her here, but she's a senior marketing professional with international experience, and she's worked for Fortune 500 companies, including Microsoft, and she's had marketing responsibilities for startups as well. And she said personally she's really passionate about healthy eating, technology, and marketing. And when you put that all together, that brought her to Foodini. So now, Lynette, tell us, what's Foodini?
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So Foodini is the world's first 3D food printer that actually prints sweet and savory types of food. And it does it using all fresh ingredients, which is a big difference from other types of printers. So I know you guys did a lot of research, so I don't want to necessarily repeat all that research that you guys have done. I don't know if you want to dive straight into the types of questions that you have.
Well, we do want to know what you can cook.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you some samples of what we cooked, and we actually made a few special samples for you guys today. Now, I made these extra big so you can try to see them on a webcam. Does anybody know what that is?
Yay!
It's a gigantic cookie with the Steelers. So we downloaded a logo, printed the cookie out, and we also have another logo here, which I'm not too sure you're going to be able to see because it's ketchup on a hamburger, and it's a gigantic hamburger, so you guys could see it. But can you see that? You know what logo that is? Try with the lighting here. Is that better?
No, it's very dark. We can't see it. You have to tell us.
It's too dark. Okay, I have pictures of it that I can send to you later where it's on a white sheet of paper so you can see it. But it's actually the baseball team logo that you guys had sent over to us. So you can see that with 3D printing, you can customize to any team logos you like or personalization of names and shapes. So basically the way we did this, so the cookie, we made our own cookie dough, and we put it into food capsules that went inside of Foodini. We pulled the logo from the internet, and it basically printed the logo. So the best way to think about 3D printing is like a normal printer when you print out your homework or something else on a sheet of paper. Now when that happens, your printer prints ink on a sheet of paper. Now imagine that sheet of paper got stuck, and you kept printing the same word over and over and over again with ink, so that you would get a word that kept growing on the paper and getting higher and higher. That's what 3D printing is in basic terminology. So instead of printer ink, we actually use food. And it's all types of different food, both sweet and savory food. So we can make meals like a hamburger, or we can make a dessert such as the cookie.
We know you guys have an awful lot of questions, and if you would like to, we can start with the first one. Who's got the first question? Raise your hand, please, so I can unmute you.
Cassidy.
Okay, where's Jesse?
Cassidy.
Cassidy. Wait, raise your hand. Whose classroom are you in?
Cadell's.
Mr. Cadell's.
Okay, wait 1 second. I'm going to unmute you. Oh, you are unmuted. Okay, go ahead. Ask your question.
Hi, my name is Cassidy Ranthel. Oftentimes in STEM class, our first build trial fails. Did you experience this? What problems did you encounter and how did you solve them?
Well, I'll tell you, with 3D food printing, we do a lot of errors. So do you know how sometimes when you see food that's not quite right, it didn't turn out right? We get mistakes too. So in your research, you may have seen that we printed 3D dinosaurs. Did you see those?
Yeah.
No. The first time we printed that, it did not look like that. The first time we printed it is our green spinach was too watery, and when we baked it, it went all over the tray and created a big green blob and did not look like a dinosaur at all. So we had to configure the spinach and make it a bit thicker so that when we cooked it, it wouldn't spread all over the place. So yeah, things do go wrong, but then you have to play around with it a little bit like you would with any other food. And so it's really a matter of trial and experimentation, and you keep trying until you get it right. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Whose question's next? Raise your hand, please, so I can see. Okay, here we go. Okay,
What is your version of the Foodini in 5 to 10 years? Do you picture it in the home of every average person? Do you think it could end world hunger?
Actually, in 5 to 10 years, we think that most kitchens will have a 3D food printer. So, do you have a microwave in your house now? You have a microwave?
Yes.
I think a lot of your friends have a microwave too, but when they first came out in the 70s for kitchens, not a lot of people had them. So we think it's going to be the same with 3D food printers, and that every one of you will have a 3D food printer in your kitchen in about 5 to 10 years. And as for world hunger, depending on what you can do with the food, if you can put food in capsules and you can keep it fresh without using a lot of preservatives, that could help get food to different parts of the world that need it so that they can make different types of dishes that may not be available locally. So our focus as a company isn't necessarily ending world hunger. That's a big mission to do, but we hope we can help contribute to that by allowing different types of food in different countries.
Good question.
Very
Who's
good.
next? Raise your hand. Go ahead.
How do you see... Hi, my name is Taylor.
Hi.
How do you see the food changing our world? Is there older technology you eventually see it replacing?
Well, we see 3D food printers will enable more people to cook fresher foods at home. So think about when you go to a supermarket. There's a lot of food that you probably buy that's already in packages, like crackers or breadsticks, right? Or other types of things like this. So rather than buying them in a package, what if you made them at home with a 3D food printer? So you can make the same thing, you can replicate it in your house, but you would know exactly the ingredients you put in it. And if you wanted it to be a bit more fun, you can even print different shapes that you would like. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Go ahead.
Hi. I'm next. Okay, just make it
Okay, go ahead. Tell us your name.
Hi, my name is James Hoffman, and my question is, what in your life has changed the most since you invented the Foodini?
I think the thing that's changed the most is I have no more time to do anything else. So when you start a company and you're really passionate about it, which means you really love it, it seems like the hours at work go by very quickly and you don't have enough hours in the day to do everything. So I find that since I started working with Foodini and started this company, there's so many things to do and it's so much fun that the days go by very quickly that I really don't find that there's a lot of time to do too much other things. So that's probably the thing that's changed the most, is that I don't have enough time to do everything.
Who's in Miss Frondorf's class?
Not me.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Katie. How many people did you test the Foodini food with, and what were their initial thoughts?
Well, we're actually still producing Foodini, so the machines that we only have 2 of them because they're made by hand, so a lot of people don't get to play with them yet. But we have shown them to quite a few people, and the people that actually see it get very excited about it. So it's one thing to do research like you guys have done, where you see it on the internet and you see videos, but until you actually see the machine and taste the food, that's when people start getting very excited. So we have a lot of interest in Foodini, a lot of people getting very excited, and we think a lot more people are going to start to be able to play with it in October when we make a lot more machines. But right now we don't have too many, so it's a bit hard for people to actually see and play with it right now.
I can tell you that in New York at the 3D printing show, when Lynette was showing the Foodini, there were long lines waiting to see what was going on. And other 3D printers take, what did they say, 11 hours to make dinner. And Foodini does it in a matter of minutes. So it's a pretty interesting and exciting machine that she has going on there. Is there a question in Miss Losey's class?
There's one in Miss Harwood.
Okay, let me go ahead. Go ahead.
We're going to get to us.
Say your name, please. Hi. Raise your hand so I see you. Go ahead.
Me? Is it me?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carson Moore. How did you become interested in science and engineering? And where do the arts fit into your line of work?
Well, after I got my master's degree in marketing, I started working in the technology sector, actually, in New York City. So, and while I was getting my MBA and my undergraduate degree in college, I worked in computer labs, and I took a handful of computer coding classes, although I'm not a coder, so I didn't get that far with it. But I really got interested into technology and electronics and what have you after I got my master's degree, and I started working in companies that specialize in those products, including Microsoft. So those are the types of companies I worked in. As for the arts, I also took a lot of arts classes in school and in college, and I think arts is very important in conjunction with technology. As an example, with Foodini, we created a technical device that does 3D food printing, but it's a kitchen appliance, so it needs to look really good in somebody's kitchen. So somebody needs to design that to make sure it looks very good in somebody's kitchen and they would be proud to have that appliance in their kitchen. But at the same point, the arts also has to work with technology, because if you design something that looks good but doesn't work with the technology or doesn't work with the manufacturing line, the product doesn't get done. So I think with arts and technology, they both have to work together hand in hand to make sure you can actually build something that looks really great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Tony. Did you have any experience with 3D printers before starting brainstorming the Foodini? And what technology is involved with the Foodini?
Actually, Natural Machines was started before I joined. So I joined in August of last year, so Foodini was already invented. But before I even heard of Natural Machines, I heard of a 3D printer about 4 or 5 months before I heard of natural machines. And it took me a while to understand what a 3D printer was because it was such a new concept and I didn't see one, so for me to envision how a 3D printer worked took me a while. But then once I got introduced to natural machines with Foodini and we thought about printing sweet and savory food, then I really understood it after playing around with it and saw the potential for it. And as for other technologies, so it is a 3D printer that's open source software that anybody can build, but we're also building software on top of it in terms of how to change the food. So with Foodini, you can print up to 5 ingredients at one time without stopping the machine and without having to touch it yourself to change the food. So that all requires technology. And there's a touch screen on Foodini where you have to use technology to build the interface and the community to pick your recipes. So there's actually quite a bit of different technology going into Foodini. It's just not the mechanics of the 3D printing, but all the interactions around that that make the mechanics work and that allow you to pick and choose and upload recipes to the internet.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question.
Introduce yourself. Go ahead. They can hear you.
Hi, I'm a McKeefer. Are there any other people you relied on through the process of coming up with your invention?
Yes, a lot of people. So when we had the idea for Foodini, we had to work with designers, mechanical engineers that could actually work with software to build the Foodini virtually to see if it would actually work, to see if we can actually build the hardware and the software. And then we have to rely on people that can actually build the software and code it. And then we have to rely on people to actually make Foodini with metal and all the electronic parts. So there's actually quite a lot of people that we are relying on that are involved in the project to make sure that we can get Foodini off of a production line. So it's not just one person's idea that's coming together, it's a lot of people working together to make sure we can develop something that comes outside of a production line and can go into your kitchen.
I see a question. Let's see, who's got a question? Raise your hand and I will unmute you. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Kelsey Anderson. How did you get enough money to fund the invention process?
Well, we're still looking for money. So we are looking for more money. But that's a great question. So the 4 founders that invented Foodini and the company, we've actually all had jobs prior to natural machines. So we saved up that money, and the CEO in particular saved up quite a bit of money that he's putting into the company for Foodini to help us develop it. And there's also money you can apply for at the bank to get a loan or from your government to get grants to help subsidize or to get money to help create new technologies. So we're doing all of that right now, and that got us to the point where we are today, where we were able to build Foodini to prove that it works and to get it ready for manufacturing. And now what we're doing is we're actually going after investors that have a lot more money to help us build the next versions of Foodini and to get this Foodini onto a manufacturing line, which is actually very expensive to make all those machines. So we are looking for more money now. And the way we come to this point is by saving our money from other jobs and getting bank loans.
We have a question in Miss Irwin's room. You've been waiting a long time. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jaren Cooper. Was this your first invention? And were you afraid to try the first Foodini food?
This is actually my first invention where I started a company to do it. I've worked in other companies that are startups where it were other people's ideas that I helped to bring them to life. As for trying Foodini's food for the first time, I was actually not afraid to try it because of the way we use the food. The food is all fresh ingredients. Now, if it were not fresh ingredients and it came out of a box and I didn't know what it was, then perhaps I would be a little bit afraid. But the first Foodini food that I tried, we actually made all the ingredients in the office, and we just printed it out. So the one thing that's nice to understand about Foodini is the food does not change when it goes through the machine. So when you put your fresh food in the capsule, it goes onto a plate, and then you can cook it and eat it. So you know exactly what's in your food. I was not afraid to try it, and it was actually very good.
Is that? Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Hey, B.L., can I jump in for a minute? I have a question, B.L. So this is fascinating stuff. I mean, I'm amazed that we're talking to you and you're all the way on the other side of the world. B.L., we're learning about how to use Google Hangout for that. Is there a way for us to show a 59-minute video from Natural Foods of the actual Foodini at work by sharing my screen or not?
We are unable, unfortunately, to show a video within a video, within a Hangout, but what we can do is we can put the link to it on the event page, and we can email that to everybody, but they don't let us do that.
That's great. If we could, we'll add the link then. I just wanted to jump in and ask that. Thank you.
And I think we have a question in Miss Harwood's room, or we did a minute ago. Do we have more questions? Did everybody ask their questions? Oh, yes, we have a question in Miss Harwood's room. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Emma Berkeley. We have a STEAM class that we participate in weekly. Were there classes like that when you were in elementary school that helped you on your path to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't think I had the same type of classes you have right now, so I think yours are a bit more advanced in that model than I had. But I did have some specialized classes that allowed us to play with different types of technology, and computers were new when I was your age, so we had some computers that would help us play with technology. It was different types of classes, but it did allow me to play with different things and to think in different ways, so that it did kind of start my entrepreneurship early on. But I think you guys are very lucky with some of the programs you have right now that get you real-life experiences and combine all the different elements together. So I think it's really great what you guys have right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Looks like we have a question in Mr. Chidel's room. Is that right?
Okay, please.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Caleb Daly. What are the benefits to having a Foodini make food instead of cooking it?
Well, one of the benefits to it is that it does all the hard assembly work for you, if you will. So let's take an example of a pizza. So do you make pizza at home, or do you order it? Well, if you were to make pizza at home, the hardest part of making pizza is actually rolling out the dough and getting a very thin layer of sauce. But with Foodini, you can print it. So you can actually make your own dough and sauce, but you can print the actual pizza. And why is that better? Well, that's better because you don't get your kitchen counter all dirty with flour. Your dough and your sauce are totally even, so it cooks evenly. There's no burnt crust on one end and raw crust on the other because it's the same height, it's the same layer to cook, and it's less messy. And plus, you can do it in fun different shapes if you wanted to. So it's actually better to use 3D food printing for certain things. Other things might be easier to do it by hand or in other ways. So it's like another kitchen appliance. You don't use your microwave for everything, so you might not use a 3D food printer for everything either. But for certain things, it makes a lot of sense to use a 3D food printer to make food and assemble it for you, if you will.
Thank you.
We have a question in Miss Frondorf's room. Say your name, please.
Hi, my name is David. If I had an idea for an invention, what are the first steps I would take, and how long did it take you to make the Foodini?
Well, we're still making Foodini, and we've been working on it for about 2 years now. So it's been quite some time. It takes a long time to get hardware and software to work together and to make sure it's something that people want. And as for your ideas, if you have an idea for an invention, I would recommend that you talk to some people about it so you can get some feedback and some of their ideas to see if it's a good idea. And if you really love your idea and you think you want to take it to the next level, I don't know how much you guys do in school about business plans, or if you get used to, if you make something, how would you sell it? How would you make it? Who would want to buy it? I would start answering those types of questions. And if you're still excited about your idea after you start thinking about those ideas, then I think you should have a really great idea and you should continue with it. But if you get bored with the answers, or you don't want to look through the answers, or you're not too excited about it anymore after asking all those other questions about who wants to buy it and how you would build it, then you probably don't have much passion for that idea. And then if you don't have passion, or if you don't love the idea you have, it's very hard to do it. So I would recommend that whatever idea you have, you make sure you love it and you can keep moving it forward.
What a great answer. In Miss Harwood's room, please. Your question.
Actually, we've all asked our questions.
You have. Does anybody have any extra questions?
Me.
Go ahead.
Okay. What inspired you to make the Foodini?
Well, as I said, there were 3 other people who helped invent it beforehand, but what inspired me and the changes I made is that I really am very passionate. I love healthy eating, and I want people to eat fresher foods and eat healthier foods. And really what inspired me along with that is that the work I do, I want to make sure it benefits people. So that's really something that would make me happy about my job, that I'm helping other people and I'm doing something good. So encouraging people to eat healthy food, to me, is something that's really good. And for me, it's fun because I love technology and putting it together. So that's what encouraged me to help come do Foodini and 3D food printing.
Who else has a Go ahead.
My name is Olivia Lamb. What is your favorite dish that Foodini makes?
Ah, that's a good question because you make so many different things. My answer changes. If you ask me this tomorrow, I might change my answer. But I think today, I'll say 2 things. I'll say a snack and a main dish. So one of my favorite snacks Foodini makes is actually crackers. Because I really like crunchy, thin crackers, but to do it by hand is really quite difficult. So Foodini makes it easy, and I can make them really spicy, which is the way I like them. So I love crackers that Foodini makes. And one of the main meals that I really love that Foodini makes better than I can by hand is gnocchi, which is a Italian type of potato pasta. I love it. So with Foodini, it's really fast and easy. And for some reason, Foodini always gets it right when Foodini prints it, but when I do it by hand, it doesn't turn out nearly as well. I don't know why. So
what about chocolate?
My 2 favorites. Well, I do like chocolate too. For me, it's not one of my favorite things. I know it's quite odd. But we do make quite a lot of chocolate, and one of the chocolates we made the other week had chocolate and caramel in it. That was very good. It was really quite good to use fresh chocolate and fresh caramel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How much time do we have?
With me, I'm okay. It's as many questions as you like.
Probably about 10 more minutes.
Okay. I wanted to say that in San Francisco, I believe this is correct, Lynette, they're opening a 3D bakery I think it's in June. And Hershey's has made a deal to do 3D printing of chocolate. So this is something we're going to hear a lot more about in the coming months, and you guys are way ahead of everybody.
Well, we're ahead in the terms of making a 3D food printer that can fit in anybody's kitchen and for a good price point. I mean, right now with technology, since this technology is fairly new with 3D food printing and having it in somebody's house, the price is a little bit higher than what probably most of you would buy it for as students. But what I can tell you is that the price of technology always comes down. So look at your TVs you have at home. Some of you probably have flat screen TVs that used to cost a lot of money not too long ago, and not too many people could afford it. But now it's the same TV or even bigger, and it's a much cheaper price. And that happens with most every technology. And that's why I say that in 5 to 10 years, to that earlier question, that a lot of you will have 3D food printers in your kitchen because it's going to become more accessible to everybody in terms of price point and functionality.
Hey, Lynette, I asked my wife if she would have the kids buy me one for Father's Day, and she went online, looked at the price, and she said, "You'll settle for a tie and you'll like it." So I'll try again next year. Hey, I see Angel there. Angel, do you have a question?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Angel Damon. I would like to know, why did you name it the Foodini?
Oh, that's a good question. That was actually done before I started the company, but I know that it has something to do with a famous magician, a famous magician that had a name very similar sounding. So we called it Foodini because it's almost like magic what it can do with the 3D printing of food and how it prints different designs and how it replicates things that you already know. So it's a bit of magic if you don't understand the 3D food printing. So that's why we called it Foodini.
A great reason. In Miss Frondorf's class, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Justin Moore. And I would like to ask you, how old were you when you came up with the idea to make the Foodini?
How old I was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a range. So I had already gotten my college degree and my undergraduate degree. So I'm much older than you right now because I also had a few jobs in between getting those degrees and getting jobs and then coming to Foodini. So let's see, how old are you now? You're 10. I'm probably the same age as your parents or 4 times as your age. Let's put it that way. I'll give you a little math problem.
Hey, Lynette, where are you from originally?
I'm actually from New Jersey.
You're from New Jersey, and you're working in Spain.
That's
and
right.
I just wanted to point that out. I wanted to point that out because we are constantly explaining to the children how the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and that careers for them, when they get to be a point where they're graduating from college, might not be in the United States because the world is so small. So can you talk just a little bit about that? I mean, how's that transition been for you?
Sure. Well, I'm from New Jersey, and then I moved into New York City for a while, and I actually worked with some British people that came over from Britain to work in New York City. And after that job, I actually went to their country. I went to England to work for another technology company. So it was really as simple as sending a resume, so that tells what jobs you have and what school you went to, sending it over the internet, and interviewing. And these days, it's actually much easier because the world is becoming very smaller. We can do video chats like what we're doing now. So you can actually do the same thing with a job interview and maybe end up working in another country. And the one thing I will say about that is I love the United States. I was born there. I'm a U.S. citizen. I will never give up my citizenship. But the world is a small place, and it's fun to see other countries, to see how the people are, to see how the country operates. And it gives you a big understanding of the world, and you learn a lot of new things. So if you have the opportunity, I would recommend that you do explore the world, and you can always go back to where you came from. So one day I think I'll be back in New York or New Jersey, but in the meantime right now I'm exploring a couple different countries and learning a lot of things as I go along with that.
How many languages do you speak?
Oh, that's a sad one, I'm afraid. So right now I speak, well, if you count American English and British English, I know 2. And I do know some Spanish, but I couldn't have a conversation like what we're having now in Spanish. I'm still studying that. So that's another good point, that if you have the opportunity to learn languages, and then even an opportunity to study in that country of the language you're learning, it's very, very useful. I actually work with a lot of people that speak over 5 languages very fluently. I think they're very lucky. So for me, it's very hard to learn a language right now, but at your age, believe it or not, it's actually easier. So if you have the opportunity to learn a different language or 2, I would recommend you take it up right now.
What about programming? How important is it for kids to learn programming?
Well, for computer programming, I think it's important if you love it. You know, you really have to love it. I'm actually married to somebody who loves computer programming. He can do it all day and all night. It really interests him because it's like a big problem he needs to solve all the time in terms of what software to write. So I think programming is important, but again, only if you really love it, because there's a lot of other things you can do out there besides just programming.
You know, Lynette, actually this year we've seen an explosion in the schools in coding. I mean, in fact, boys and girls, how many of you have dabbled with coding this year? Raise your hands. You've done some coding? So we've actually done coding here in the school all the way down to 1st grade. It's really an amazing critical thinking exercise. So we'll be getting more into that. Hey, Emily, are you there? Do I see Emily Sisson sitting there? Do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, my name is Emily Sisson. How did making the Foodini help with business skills for later on?
That's a really good question. So with making the Foodini, it's not just making the product, it's actually thinking about how much it's going to cost to make it, how much it's going to, you want to sell it to people, how you're going to market it to tell people about it, who wants to buy it, and just loads of other questions. So you really have to think of not only making the actual product, but who's going to buy it and at what price point. And then you have to think through distribution and how you're going to build it. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm writing a lot of business plans, which are very lengthy documents answering all these questions and thinking through all these questions. So it's really helpful from a business standpoint to make sure you're thinking about everything around the product to make sure it's something that's worth selling and something worth building.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. I see one in the music room and I see one in the art room. We'll take those 2 questions and then we're going to have to wrap it up. So let's start from the music room. What do we have?
My name is DJ, and I wanted to ask, how long did it take to make the Foodini?
Well, right now it's taken about 2 years to make it. So this year we're actually going to go onto a manufacturing line, which means we're going to make a lot of them. So right now there's only about 4 Foodinis that exist right now, and they're all made by hand. So it's a very lengthy and expensive process. So once we get on a manufacturing line, which means you'll be able to build a lot of them very quickly, that's going to happen this year, and that'll be about 2 years since we started making it.
Next.
Go ahead. Hello, my name is Kira, and I wanted to ask, is there anything the Foodini can't make?
Actually, yes. There's quite a few things the Foodini cannot make. So what we cannot make yet, maybe in the future, but we cannot make things like lettuce and tomatoes and steak, or things that you would natural types of foods like this. We can make things with those as ingredients, but we're not replicating all types of food. What we are replicating or copying is things that you might find in a grocery store in a package that have ingredients already put together into another form, like crackers or cereal or breadsticks or these types of things. So there's quite a few things, but again, the technology is developing every day, and who knows what we can make with 3D printers in the future. Maybe one day we can replicate everything.
Well, Lynette, thank you so much.
May I ask a question, Mr. Detwiler?
Yes, go ahead.
How big is a capsule?
A capsule is, oh, I wish I had one here to show you. I'm sorry I don't. A capsule is about this high and about this round. So not very big in terms of taking up space in your house, but it's big enough to get a good number of ingredients in there so that you can print several things with it.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So to just wrap up our interview with you, Lynette, I do have one question too. So obviously your company is not just working on Foodini. I'm sure you've got people thinking about what the next big item is going to be. Can you give us some hints? What can we expect from your company in the next couple of years?
Okay, yes, I'll give you some hints. So right now with Foodini...
Without getting fired. Without getting fired.
So right now with Foodini, this is more of the introduction model, if you will. So that means it does not cook. So some food you can eat straight out of Foodini, such as chocolate or mashed potatoes, but some other foods, such as this hamburger and the cookie, you would have to cook it in an oven after you printed it. However, the next version we're looking at actually does the cooking for you in the same device. So perhaps one day these 3D food printers can actually replace your microwave or replace your oven, because it will have the same functionality built in, plus it could actually 3D print your food for you as well.
That's amazing.
Hey, B.L., I also wanted, before we hang up with Lynette, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about what you're doing, because I don't think we made that clear. I heard at the beginning of the broadcast someone called you the Google lady, and you're not the Google lady at all. You're B.L. Ochman. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, I run a company called Maximum Plus, and what we do is we train educators and associations and brands how to use all these magical tools that Google Plus provides, and then we produce events like these. And we've had the pleasure of doing this with you, and this is just a joy. You guys have been fantastic today, and I want to...
Hey, boys and girls, why don't you show your appreciation by doing, you know, the silent wave thing, the silent clapping. Can you do that to Lynette and to B.L. Thank them? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for all the great questions.
Okay, everybody,
Fantastic.
This is going to be on YouTube later today, and what I'm going to do later for all of you is I'm going to make timestamps on the video so that you'll be able to go directly to specific questions that you're particularly interested in. That might take me the rest of the day, but it's going to get done. So thank you so much, Lynette, and thank you to everybody at Stevens Elementary School. You guys rock.
Thank you.